It looked like somebody was bent over and had their head in the window of the deer blind, and it either heard me or smelt me, and he pulled his head out of the tent and stood straight up, and that shocked me. They don't make people that big.
The way it moved, almost as if it was gliding across the beach. I've never seen anything move like that in my life. They were screaming at each other in gibberish. It sounded like a language, and they were chuntering away back and forwards, back and forwards, back and forwards. I know what a bear looks like, and there is no way on this planet that what I saw were bears.
What are you reporting?
Jesus Christ, you better...
Sir?
Deal!
Hello?
Get somebody out here.
What's going on now, sir?
That son of a bitch is about 6'9", I don't know.
Do you see him now, sir?
Yes, I'm looking right at him.
Uh-oh.
This is John from Ontario, Canada, and you're listening to Sasquatch Chronicles.
Welcome to the show. Tonight we'll be speaking with John. And 4 years ago, John and his girlfriend were staying in this cabin in North Carolina. He describes this creature coming onto the deck and right up to the window of the cabin. John and his girlfriend froze, and the creature froze. And I'll kind of let John go into it. We'll also be speaking with Jacob. And Jacob works nights in construction. His crew was on a job building a remote cabin near the Idaho-Wyoming border. Jacob describes an encounter as he's coming out of the porta potty. And then we'll wrap up with Adam. And Adam has a very strange one. Adam's from Vermont. This happened back in July of 2017. He was attending college, and it was summertime, obviously, heading home. And he ran into these very strange kids, and I'm really not sure what to make of it. And when I spoke to Adam, he said, the only thing I can come up with is maybe they're the black-eyed kids. I don't know. But I'll let Adam kind of go into what happened. If you've had an encounter and you'd like to be on the show, shoot me an email. My email address is wes@sasquatchchronicles.com. Let's jump into it tonight. I want to welcome John to the show. John, thanks for coming on.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, and I know we're going to go into this incident that happened to you and your girlfriend back about 4 years ago in North Carolina. Prior to this happening to you 4 years ago, what was kind of your thoughts on the whole subject of Sasquatch?
Well, in 1967, first time I saw anything like that, it was on TV, the Patterson-Rogers, the film in Northern California, a Patty. And I wasn't but 17, so I joined the Patterson Bigfoot Club, and I still got my little 5 or 7 a Patty they sent with a card. And that was my first introduction in the Bigfoot world.
Well, if you would, John, take me back 4 years ago in North Carolina. What were you doing, and walk me into what happened?
Well, a lady friend and I had rented a log cabin almost on top of a mountain close to the Tuskegee River, there just southeast of Bryson City, close to Whittier, North Carolina. We chose that because it was real remote, and there was an older log cabin across the creek from it. Anyway, we had been out all that Friday sightseeing. We got down there Friday morning, but we went out sightseeing all day and went around to Cherokee and the reservation and up in the Smokies and all. We got in real late at the cabin. It was about 10:30, and we hadn't eaten anything. She wanted to fix something to eat in the kitchen, so I told her I'd take a grilled cheese and some soup or something, just something simple. So she was in the kitchen fixing our supper, and I had the TV on in the living room, had the fire going in the fireplace, and she heard something on the porch out there. Had a big old porch all the way around the front of the cabin, and told me to come in there. There's something on the porch. So I walked in the kitchen. There's a little window in there. I looked out the window and I didn't see anything. I told her it's probably just a coon or a deer or something, some small creature out there messing around. So I went back in the living room, sat back down, and it wasn't just a few minutes, like 3 or 4 minutes. We heard something knock over out on the porch. Something was knocked down from the porch or something. She got scared and coming in where I was at. We stood there a few minutes by the fireplace just listening. And then we hear the floor, the porch cracking, the boards in the porch cracking outside. Like something real heavy, a deer or something even larger would have been out there doing that. And then we got more scared. I went over and put a chair behind the door. I thought that might help, up against the doorknob. And then she cut some of the lights on. Then we heard these real deep grunts. I mean, just deep, like something big. I mean, I never heard anything like that except from a pig, a big hog, or some bigger animal. But my gun, my pistol, and my phone were over by the lampstand next to a window. The thought come to my mind to go over there where my gun was. So she walked over there with me. We stood there a minute. We heard another grunt, and there was a big light on a lamp pole outside that lit the whole front of the cabin up pretty well. And then this creature come right in front of the window. The top of the window was taller than me, and I'm 6 foot. And this thing had to bow down to look in the window. It was, when it turned toward us, the eyes had a kind of a light, orangey light shine to them. And it just stood there looking in the window at us for, I don't know, maybe 3 to 4 minutes. And the first thought come to my mind is pick the phone up, get a picture, and then something told me, no, get your pistol. So when I picked the pistol up, it hesitated just a little bit. It must have been looking at us because it took off up the mountain, off the side of the cabin up the mountain. We heard the brushes and all the bushes crashing and stuff. Well, first thought come to our minds, we cut every light on in the cabin, every light, locked all the doors up, and we just stood there in fear because what I saw, I mean, I don't care if I ever see something like that again that close. It was, I mean, it was just awful. What it was, I do not know. I think it was a creature of Bigfoot. The facial features, it had a nose, not quite like a human. It had a brow on his forehead. Didn't have any neck. Had big, broad shoulders. I mean, huge shoulders and arms. I couldn't see his legs and stuff, but from about halfway up the waist up's what we saw. And it was really dark, black. The face, I never will forget the face. It looked between I want to say gorilla, but the facial features weren't like a gorilla. It was like more human looking. I mean, but you could tell it wasn't human. But it didn't show any expression at all. When the orange in the light in its eyes was all that I seen of any kind of expression from the light outside. But anyway, we were scared the rest of the night. I just couldn't hardly get any sleep. She started crying and wanted to leave, but I told her that I didn't really want to go out. I wanted to wait till morning because I didn't know if there was one more out there or how many were out there. So we sat up all night and listened to TV and listened for sounds and all, and didn't really hear anything else except an owl. Owl started howling, just scared to death. And when morning came, I got up real early, and she started napping a little bit, wore out. I told her I was going out, see what I could see. And I went out on the porch and looked around, and there was a big, huge flower pot. I mean, a big one. It was knocked over, and the dirt was poured all over the porch. And I started looking for tracks, but it had rained that night, and there was a lot of rock formations around the cabin. And I didn't see any tracks. I didn't go up into the woods, but I didn't see any tracks or anything. So I come back in the house, and I told her, I said, what do you want to do? And she says, well, I want to go. So we packed everything up, and I walked around the cabin one more time and walked over the little hill there where the rise was. You can see the river down in the valley. And I really wanted to look around a little bit more, but she was ready to get out from up there. So we left, went back down into Bryson City and got a motel room. But for days after that, I had a feeling like it just really dawned on me, these things are really, really there. I mean, they're really with us. And you can't get that out of your head. Once you've seen it, your life has changed forever. It's not, you just know that they're there. I mean, I don't know that I don't want to go back there. It really shook her up.
It almost makes you wonder if someone was engaging with this creature prior to you guys showing up, because that's pretty ballsy behavior for it to come right up to the window.
Yeah, we had the curtains were pulled back and the blinds were up. We hadn't shut the blinds or anything yet. We had been busy just doing what we were doing with her cooking and all. Hadn't really taken any time to shut the windows and stuff. And the night light was directly right in front of that window out there on a pole, right by the drive, come up a steep driveway. You had to have a four-wheel drive to get up the driveway. The night light was right out there on the pole. You look through the window and probably see, shoot, at least, I'd say 20 yards out across the driveway there.
Like I said, that's really comfortable behavior, especially stepping into the light, kind of the way you described the cabin and how that light is set up outside. So when you look at this thing through the window, I mean, how close were you to this thing? I would imagine you're right there.
Well, the nightstand and the lamp was right in front of the window. I was standing right by the lampstand, looking right out the window. It was standing right in front of the window, just staring at us, just looking at us. It never made any gestures or anything. It just stood there and stared at us like it was just curious who was there or whatever.
And the other thing too, John, is you mentioned it kind of had to bend down to look in the window. Could you estimate how tall do you think it was?
All right, I'm 6 foot. The top of the window frame was way above my head, at least 7 foot. This thing had bent down to look through the window. So I'm saying it was over 7 foot, or at least 7 foot or 8, somewhere in that vicinity. I tried to get up close to the window and look at it and see if I could see it again when it took off, but never could see it again. The facial features looked male looking, because it had kind of a beard looking thing down its neck. I don't know if the females have that or not, but it had facial hair around his face, not on his face, but it looked like it had hair around his lips, his chin, and his neck. The brow was pretty high on it from the hairline, because it had a prominent ridge across the top of his eyebrows. You can see a ridge across there, kind of ape looking, but not ape looking. The top of his head was a crown. There was a little knob on top of his head, like it was rounded off on top of his head, kind of egg shaped, or whatever you want to call it.
And I might have missed it in the beginning, but when you're looking at this thing, did his expression change at all, or was it more like a stone face?
It was just a direct stare at us. It was just staring in the window, like it didn't look like it was aggravated or upset or anything. It looked like it knew what it was doing. I mean, it just stood there. I mean, it just stood there and looked at us. We were almost scared to move. We were almost froze standing there. I really didn't know what to do. So I just picked my pistol up. When I done that, it must have known what the gun was, because it took off.
I would have grabbed my pistol too. And, what else she's supposed to do in that situation? I doubt that pistol would have done anything, but it's better than nothing. 4 years later, I would imagine this is burned in your memory. Looking back at this moment, what are some details that kind of haunt you today? Stuff that just kind of stays with you about its appearance?
It didn't have a flat nose like an ape or a monkey. It had a ridge on its nose, but it wasn't a real big ridge. The eyes were deep set. The skin looked like leather, and it was between a gray and a dark brown. The hair was jet black from looking through the window, and it had what looked like ridges or wrinkles below its eyes and on its brow. Across the forehead, it looked like it had some strong wrinkles, but it didn't show any expression on his face. It never, didn't do anything else other than the growls we heard. It didn't have any expression whatsoever, other than just staring. I didn't see any ears at all. The beard was same color as the rest of it. It might have been a little bit lighter toward the bottom, a little bit grayish looking toward the bottom of the neck. The hair appeared to be thinner toward the chest. It didn't appear to have as much hair down towards the chest, but the arms were full of hair, and the neck and the head, other than the face. It didn't really have any ape monkey-like features in the face. It was more like, I couldn't say Neanderthal. I've seen pictures of Neanderthal men and all that type of stuff. It didn't look like that either. It was just something that I'd never seen before in pictures or anything else. The patty face is similar with the nose and all, but this thing was more stronger looking in the face, I guess you'd call it, more just stronger, had stronger facial features than Patty, the one in the Patterson film. It was just, I don't know, it kind of acted like it was trying to say something to us or something. I mean, like it wanted to talk to us or something. I don't know how to explain that. It was just a weird feeling. Because I figured, well, if it had meant harm to us or something, it could have easily knocked the window out or busted the door down in one hit, but it didn't do anything. Like it just stood there and looked at us. And I guess it just went on about its business wherever it was going. I mean, it was just weird. It never looked mean looking or like it was angry or nothing like that. It just, there might have been a little bit of a mouth movement, not enough to mean anything. What little of the teeth that I could see, I didn't see any fangs or anything like that. It had the bottom teeth like ours. It looked like just white, regular white teeth, like we got, same molars we got, our front teeth. But what little I could see of it, because it did open its mouth just a little bit, not much, and it did blink its eyes. You could tell, I mean, it was extremely cold outside too and raining, so it might have just wanted to go on to wherever it was going, I don't know.
Many eyewitnesses report that expression, that stone-faced expression, where they don't really look mad, but they don't really look happy. It really makes me wonder how often this cabin is actually rented, because this was a rental. This isn't like something you guys own.
There's a rental log cabin. They got this family has about 5 cabins. It's not an Airbnb. It's just they have 5 cabins built to rent out to people. I think it's Bryson City Cabins is the name of it, unless somebody's bought them out. But I never even contacted them. I didn't want to hurt their business or anything, or I guess I should have told them though. Now I think about it. I started to call them and tell them, but I let it go. So.
Yeah, I would almost be willing to bet the people that own those cabins know exactly what's going on there. I'm sure you're not the first one to experience this. You had mentioned you got the feeling like it wanted to talk or speak. What gave you that feeling? Was it because it just didn't leave?
the way it was staring at us, it was like, I just felt like it had something on his mind to tell us or something. I don't know. It was just a weird feeling. I've never had that feeling before. I felt like it was trying to communicate somehow. I don't know whether those things can put thoughts in your head or what. I don't know how much power they have or anything like that. She felt it too. It's just a weird feeling. I mean, it's just, what come to my mind was, it's intelligent. Whatever this is, it's intelligent. It's not a dummy. I wish I'd explored more around the cabin. It was a real pretty place, though. And up on the hill, I forgot about this. Up on the hill, there was it was like a little rock pile statue. They were stacked up on top of each other. This was in the woods up over the little hill where you can see the river. There was a pile of rocks there, like a little statue piled up on top of each other. I'm not sure if tourists done that or something else.
Have you ever thought about going back?
I have, yeah. I've took an interest in Bigfoot, a really big interest in Bigfoot since then. It really shook me up. I want to know what they are and where they come from. Is what I want to know. It's just, I don't know. It just took a hold of me. I just can't. It's kind of like seeing a UFO for the first time or a bear or something. You just can't. That memory's with you forever. But this especially, because I've never seen anything like this in my life, and I've seen just about every creature on Earth, either on TV or in real life. She got to a point where she didn't even want to talk about it anymore. She didn't even want to bring it up.
Yeah, who could blame her? I mean, who could blame her? They come up to a window like that, and I would imagine you feel very, very helpless in that moment, especially with the size of this thing. You'd mentioned the deck kind of creaking and cracking, and I know you're an outdoorsman, you're a hunter. Is there a certain weight you would estimate this creature?
I'm 220, and I didn't crack the floor when I walked on it out there on the porch. This thing was, the boards were just cracking. I mean, just, you could hear the boards moving as it walked. So I'm guessing it had to be over 350 pounds, up to 400, 500, 600 pounds at least to do that. Because, the porch was well built. Had a huge front porch on it, and the ceiling was about 10 foot on the porch. It had plenty of room out there.
And I know your point of reference for Sasquatch was the Patterson-Gimlin film. Was seeing Bigfoot what you thought it would be? And how did it change your life?
Well, in 67, when I first saw the Patty film, I thought enough of it that I joined the club, and then for years and years and years, time went by. I never did get interested in it anymore. But this is like a new episode in your life. It's like you just won't ever be the same after you see one of these things. Sometimes you feel like it was just a dream. It was so strange. It's like, did this really happen to me? If she hadn't been with me, I might be questioning about it, but I know what we saw was real. What it was, I do not know, but it fits the Sasquatch, the Bigfoot, pretty well.
Yeah, I think based on your description, it definitely was a Sasquatch, and it really makes me wonder about its comfort level on coming up to that window. There's many reports of them coming up to people's windows, especially little kids' windows. But in this situation, especially being a rental, and I'm just speculating, but it really makes me wonder if something happened prior to you guys getting there. Someone was feeding it or engaging with it, and based on its lack of reaction, almost like it was confused seeing you two there.
I don't know about that, but I do know that there's been quite a few encounters in that area that I didn't know anything about until this happened to us. People like you who do a lot of research and talk to a lot of different people, there have been quite a few sightings in that area of North Carolina. So there may be a family living there, a big family of them or something, or a clan or whatever you call them.
Yeah, it wouldn't shock me one bit, John, especially in a remote area like this. And A lot comes out of North Carolina. I ask everyone on the show, what do you think Sasquatch is? What's kind of your take, John? I mean, you got a really good look at this thing's face.
In my opinion, this is just my opinion. I don't believe they're human, although they may be part human. If they have eye shine, great apes do not have eye shine. These things do. We don't have eye shine. I've seen images, night images of these things on some of these videos where they have eye shine. From what I found out since then, there have been tracks in the snow that people find that just disappear and go to nowhere. Are they being taken up into a different realm or a different dimension or a UFO? Do they walk in portals? That's what baffles me. There's something going on that we do not know about other than the fact that they're flesh and blood. That they have to be something other than flesh and blood to me, because if some of the things that I've read within the last 2 years about them, I don't know if they're from the earth or not. It could be from somewhere else, or it could be from underground. I don't know. It's just, the more I study about it, the more confused I get. I'm truly fascinated with them. I feel like it may be one of the things in our future that we're really going to have to be careful with. I think they've probably been here as long as we have, or longer, according to all these native, legends and all. And that's the ones that's truly got some information on some of these elders and some of these Native American tribes. And, a lot of people don't pay them any attention. They've been seeing them for hundreds of years, here in America. I don't think it's an ape. And it put such a fear in us, we couldn't hardly move. I couldn't even move. After I got thinking about it, somebody in a suit or a man, even a man just walking up, he wouldn't stand there and look at you through the window. That'd be foolish.
Yeah, Wes. So we was out there working construction, and I was working for my grandpa's company at the time, and he had me doing night shifts with the crew I was on. We were building houses and cabins and all this at the time. At this point, we were in, like you said, Idaho and Wyoming, and we were on the border there, and we were building this cabin for these nice old folks. They were great people. They wanted it done quick, so that's why we were doing nights. And anyway, so I think we got there on a Thursday. Yeah, it was a Thursday, and that's when we started work. We start at 5 o'clock at night, and we get done at 5 in the morning on Friday. And then after our shift is over, then we go back to the campers and the hotels if you wanted to stay there. But I like being outside, so I decided, pull a camper up there. So my Friday shift came around, and everything was normal again leading up to it. And then at about, I don't know exactly what time it was. It's been quite some time. I think it was around 2 in the morning. I had to use the porta potty, and we had them off 50 yards away from the site that we were working on, just so it didn't stink up the place. I seen this thing walking in the tree line. At first, it looked like a bear at first, just like the shape, I would say, but a skinny, taller bear, because it was walking on 2 legs. That's at first what I thought it was. So I kind of got scared. So I saw him walking, like when I first came out of the porta potty, and then I don't know if he smelt me or saw me or whatever, but he stopped and he did look at me, and we did make eye contact for a little bit. I couldn't tell you how long it was, but that's when I really got a good look at him. He resembled a human to an extent, because he was a lot taller, broader shoulders, long arms, and his face it wasn't super hairy, but it did have some hair on it. The eyes were pretty intense. They had like that reddish glow to them. I wouldn't say glow, but there was a tint to him. His mannerisms, kind of like the way he walked, was human-like, but his expression did change. I wouldn't say in a negative way or anything. If I had to describe him, I would call him a gentle beast, if anything. He was kind of minding his own business, and then when he did see me and we looked at each other, he kind of seemed surprised.
And Jacob, you mentioned his eyes were kind of had that reddish tint. Were they glowing?
They seemed to be glowing, but we also did have like our lights so we could see at night. So it could have been the glare off that, but I did notice they did have a red tint to them.
I gotcha. And what happens next?
We're looking at each other, and then he kind of takes a couple steps back, and then he just turns around. I would want to say sprint, but he did it so elegantly, and he just kind of glided through the forest. I did want to follow him in just so I could like get a better look and hopefully get my phone out and take a picture, but I didn't really know what to do at that point. So I kind of stayed at that area for a little bit just to see if he would come back or not. Once I kind of gathered myself, and I'll be honest, I didn't dare go in after, like once I came to my senses. I walked back and I went to one of my coworkers and I told him what I saw. And I mean, he kind of just laughed at me, and then something about his demeanor changed, and when he like saw the look on my face and he knew I wasn't messing around.
Did you guys go back over there after the sun came up and kind of look for tracks or anything?
I did go over there and we couldn't see anything. Like we saw some brush move to the side, but no tracks, which is kind of strange.
Did anything else happen on this job site?
Not on this job site. I mean, I haven't had really any other experiences except that one. But I do know of my uncle. He told me about this one that he had a little while ago. I'd love to tell you if you'd like me to.
Yeah.
So my uncle, his name's Chad. He was backpacking with his brother. His name's TJ, and they had both of their two boys with them. And then my other cousin Dustin, he was with them as well. And they were backpacking on the middle fork of the Salmon River, so like out in Salmon, Idaho. They got up there and everything was fine. They were fishing, all this, that, and the other, having a good time. And one of the nights Chad described to me when he told me his story was that he just had a weird feeling when he woke up in the middle of the night with a weird feeling. So he took his flashlight out and kind of like glanced around, shined on hillsides. He didn't really see anything. So he tried to go back to bed, but he still couldn't. So he did it again. He saw this thing walking on the hillside after glassing around for a little bit more. He didn't know what it was. And he didn't want to scare any of the other boys. So he kind of just sat there quietly watching it. And I think it seen the light. So it kind of scurried off. I don't know, but it took off away from their campsite. But it was walking on two legs like a human would. But the steps were so much longer, even though it was in such a calm state at that point. It was calm, but still taking long steps. He did say it looked like it had some long hair on him. But other than that, like he didn't see no face or anything. But that's what he told me.
Yeah, I appreciate sharing that. And that's not far from this incident with you. And, going back to your encounter, this creature's behavior reminds me more of a man than it really does an animal. I would think of running into a black bear or a cougar or any major predator, and they're either going to attack or most likely run. He just kind of looked at you and turned around and walked off. Did you get the impression you were looking at more of an animal, or did you get the impression it was more of a man?
I kind of felt it both ways, because looking at something standing on two legs makes you think that you're looking at a man. But you're looking at something that has a bunch of fur makes you think you're looking at an animal. So I kind of had mixed feelings with it.
How would you classify these things? What do you think that they are?
You know, I don't have a 100% answer for you. I do think that Sasquatch are both a mix of something of this world, but maybe something of another world as well. I do think it's got like the body of an animal, but the mind and knowledge to an extent of humans.
Yeah, a lot of people say that. And, you know, a lot of times these creatures will come in on construction sites and just kind of check out what's going on. I mean, you guys are kind of tearing the place up. You're building homes, and I could see it kind of coming in and checking on things. And you often hear it with loggers when they're clear cutting. Oftentimes these things will show up. You know, Jacob, 3 years later, is there anything about its appearance and I realize it was very brief, but is there anything about its appearance that still stays with you today?
Honestly, the one thing that does stay with me is the way that he was just calm. And I don't know if that's because of the construction site was going on for so long, so he was kind of comfortable with it. But the way he looked at me it was calm, and then he took off. And that also stuck with me, how swiftly he could glide through thick brush like that. Like I hunt all the time. You know, I hunt bears and elk and deer, you name it, I hunt it. And I've seen animals glide swiftly through the forest, but I've never seen anything like this. It opened up my mind a lot, because before I was kind of like, I know what I know, and I don't really want to listen to other people's opinions or think about something else until I seen this. And it was like, I've never seen that before. And it was a mind-opening experience.
Yeah, that is one positive, I will say. It definitely opened your mind up when you run into these things and you realize there's a lot more out there that we don't know than what we actually know on this planet. And then it was a very brief encounter, but I really appreciate you coming on, Jacob. I really wanted to chat with you about this incident, and thank you so much.
Yeah, Wes, thank you for having me. It's an honor.
The honor was mine. Next up on the show, I want to welcome Adam. Adam, thanks for coming on.
Hey, thanks a lot, Wes. That's long-time listener. Good to be here. I know it's not a Sasquatch story, but...
Yeah, well, I'm glad that you came on. I read your email, and I was very intrigued by it. I know that you kind of put this whole thing you were trying to put it into a box, and you were thinking black-eyed kids, but I'm not sure. I really wanted to hear the whole incident. I know this happened in Vermont, and we're going back to 2017. If you would you start from the beginning? What were you doing and what happened?
I was attending college, utilizing my GI Bill, and I had enrolled in some summer classes. But so the last day of the class, I was heading home, and that day it was so hot. I mean, it was there wasn't a cloud in the sky, but I can remember it was like at least 95 degrees and very, very humid too, to add to the pain. I started heading home. I packed up a lot of my charcuterie that I made in class, and I was heading home. And I'm the kind of guy, Wes, I like my back roads, and I like to cruise around on the back roads. And so even though I can take a straight point home on a main road, I will take winding back roads for miles and miles and miles. It's kind of like my zen. So I was going down the road, and roads that I've been on for many, many times. I'm pretty predictable. I have my path I go. I wind around and unwind and putter around at like 20 miles an hour. People come up on me, I'll just pull over and let them go by and just keep puttering around. And at this time of the year, the road crew had been cuffing out the edges of the road for the ditches, because after the winter melt, it provides drainage, and so they carve out these big, huge ditches. And I'm going on this road, and I see like they had just carved them out, and come around this bend. I see 3 kids sitting in this ditch, recently carved out ditch, and there was 2 girls and a boy. And like I said, I've been this road 100 times, 1,000,000 times. It was my path to get home. I know people who walk in that road, like people who run that road, and bike on that road. I didn't see these kids, which, I mean, I guess don't really mean much, but I'd never seen them before. And like I said, I'm putting along at like 20 miles an hour, and I'm looking at them, and I noticed, well, they're very unkempt. It was on each side of the, I'm trying to give you geography here, so a boy and a girl were sitting on the other side of the hill facing me, and one girl was sitting on the roadside facing them. And I waved, and the girl to the left of the boy waved. But there's one girl, looks like she's wearing like a burlap sack, like if you take a burlap sack and cut a head hole in it and 2 arms, and that's what she was wearing. And she had longer brown hair, and the boy had blondish hair and was wearing like a button-down shirt and some gray trousers and suspenders. Do you remember the suspenders? And the other girl, she was kind of cropped. She had shorter hair, darker brown, and just a knee-length dress and kind of like a button-down shirt with like puffy sleeves on it. And something just when sometimes when you just feel like something bad is about to happen. So after they waved, I moved along and just looked in my rearview mirror, and I see them get up and start to run, like towards my car. And before I know it, I'm looking at my speedometer, and I'm at 40 miles an hour, and these kids are keeping pace with my car. I forgot to mention they were all barefoot too. I'm like, if these kids catch me, or if I go up, like, I think I'm done. So they're chasing my car down. My eyes were fixated on my rearview mirror and the 2 side mirrors, which is where I could see them. I could see 2 from the rear view and 1 from one. Is almost like they were in a formation. And being it was so hot, my windows were down, and I didn't have AC in the car, so all my windows were down to give me some reprieve from the heat. But because of that, I couldn't hear any footsteps, but I could hear the children chattering back and forth. I couldn't tell you what they were saying. You know how you can hear people talking, and you know they're talking words and talking, but it was kind of like that. I guess my brain was in too many positions at that point. 1, my gas, 1, the mirror, and 1, trying not to urinate on myself. And I was coming down a slight slope, and then there's another hill that goes up to the left of me, and to the right is a graveyard, which hadn't even come into my calculation until really recently. And like I said, I had my eyes glued on the children, and all at once they took an immediate, I say a right angle turn, but they went up to the left. But you know what I mean? It wasn't like a curve. It was like immediate, all of them at once. And they flew up this hill. I couldn't tell you the speed, but I would have to say they'd outrun a cheetah. I'd never seen anything like it. By now I'm doing 60. And as the crow flies, I'm only like geez, a mile from my house. But got home and I pull up in the driveway and I see my son standing there. Wes, this may not have anything to do with the story, but I see my son standing there and a look of I was like, something's wrong. So I pulled up. I was ready to jump out and run in and tell everyone what the hell just happened to me. But my son was like, "Where have you been? Where have you been? Where have you been?" And he's like, "Kiki just had a seizure." Kiki is our chihuahua. This is our little girl, our little chihuahua. We all love her so much. So I didn't say anything. We just got her to the vet, and no, she's okay now. She's alive now. But I don't know if that had anything to do with the story. But
yeah, I'm not sure if that had anything to do with it. When you looked at these kids, were you able to see their face at all?
That's where I kind of like, where when I emailed you and said black eye, that's because I ain't gonna say they didn't have black eyes, but I couldn't see their eye color, but the behavior, I guess. And in retrospect, like I was scared that these things were gonna, if they caught up to me, they would kill me. But after watching them do that turn, these things could have been running right beside me with ease. Never seen anything like it. Never anything like it. And the way they moved, like it was almost like a formation. And that's what I got when they did that 90-degree turn. Is it was all three of them at once, and I had my eye right on them when they did that.
Yeah, it's just so weird, Adam. There's kind of a tell in your encounter that makes me think it wasn't the black-eyed kids. There's many reports of the black-eyed kids, and even a famous one from your state in Vermont. But oftentimes when people run into these kids, usually it's groups of 3, sometimes it's 2. People describe them as being emotionless. It kind of reminds me of like the Men in Black when they show up. A lot of people say they're almost like robots. They don't really have any emotions but there was a case in Vermont where, and this is kind of their MO, they'll show up at someone's door and ask to use a phone, or they want to come in the home. The more you deny them of coming in, the more pushy they get. But there was an old woman there in Vermont, and I think it was 3 of these kids showed up at her home between ages of 7 to 10, and they had jet black eyes. And it was snowing outside, and they wanted to use a phone to call their parent. So the old woman lets them use a phone, and they come in and sit down on the couch while they wait. The elderly lady said that none of her animals wanted anything to do with these kids. As soon as they came in, the dog scattered, the cat scattered, and she said the conversation was very odd. It was very robotic, and it was creepy. And one of the kids basically says, "Oh, my dad's here." The elderly lady said that she looked out, and at the end of her driveway was this very tall, dark figure just standing there. And one by one, the kids filed out of her home. I mean, it's just a weird account. And I'll have to go back and look. If my memory's right, there was some bad things that happened to her after this incident. But when you were passing by and it waved back to you, you often don't find that emotion with the black-eyed kids. Well, what do you think that you ran into?
There's a kind of a second, I wouldn't say a second part to the story, but just something that I realized that I can't even believe that I forgot about. And who knows if it has anything to do with it. But I mentioned that when we're going by a graveyard. And in that graveyard, you go way back in the graveyard, you kind of go over a little hump, and then you see this tombstone that's very noticeably not supposed to be on the property of the graveyard, because everything else is mowed and this one kind of sits back in the brush. And it says a gypsy baby. And whenever you go up there, there's always all kinds of trinkets around it, or somebody will put coins or something. I looked it up on the internet, like maybe this is something they did back in the day for maybe babies that they found that they didn't know them. I don't know. But when I got to getting my perspective, I was like, son of a gun. That's about where them kids shot off at. I don't know if it's pure coincidence, but
Yeah, that's weird about the gypsy baby. It could be referring to its ethnic background, but I do know that that was kind of a term used in the past, meaning free spirit. I don't know why they would say that about a baby. Did you get the feeling like they were trying to catch you?
at first I thought it was to catch me, and I had no idea. I was seriously in panic mode. And like I said, it was a 4 years Marine Corps, 10 years Department of Corrections. I don't panic that easy. I think they were just toying with me. But looking back, like, Jesus, if they could have caught me, they would have caught me.
And I realize it's kind of a quick drive-by, but how old would you say they were?
I'm guessing between 9 and 11.
And I know this is the road to go home, so it's kind of a dumb question, but have you been back on that road?
Every day, Wes. What? There was a period where I gave that section a wide berth until I could really kind of, well, first, like, am I freaking insane? You know, like, did this actually happen? I mean, when stuff like this happens to people, it's like, no, this is the really real world. That shit doesn't happen, but it happened.
Yeah, I'm kind of stumped at him. I really am. I mean, I don't think it was the black-eyed kids. Obviously, they weren't normal children. I mean, maybe it was something more dark, more demonic. You know, you kind of had that feeling of dread or something bad was going to happen after you exchanged waves back and forth. And then them getting up and running 40 miles an hour and kind of all turning in unison. Nothing about it sounds normal, man. Nothing about it sounds like regular kids to me. Strange.
Yeah, I really went down the rabbit hole, honestly, Wes, with the black-eyed kids. And I think I remember some of the stuff you're referencing. Yeah, but I just never heard of them having like supersonic speed. And I was kind of hoping, if someone contacts you and says, "Hey, Wes, I had this exact same thing happen," I would love to hear from you.
Yeah, they're running at high speeds too. You know, yeah, I mean, if I get someone else that comes forward, I'll definitely reach back out to you. And, you know, I like odd stuff like this because you think you're the only one that it's happened to, and then you find out you're not the only one that it's happened to. I would like to know what it was that you ran into. I mean, you wouldn't think little kids would freak you out, but if I had 3 little kids pacing me at 40 miles an hour, I would freak out. It's very odd. It's very strange. And I do hope more people come forward